Join us in the Bear Den, a real-life, real-love podcast celebrating the joys and challenges of parenting, family dynamics, and unconditional love.
Welcome to another episode of the Bear Den podcast. Today, my guest is a doctor in the field of mental health and performance. He's one of my great friends. It is Dr. Bridger Battaglia. Bridger, my man.
What's up?
Doc.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever called you Doc.
I know. I don't.
It feels very cool. Can I just call you Doc?
Yeah,
it
sure.
does. Do you not like it?
I don't care.
Do you not really?
No.
Oh.
I don't even make my patients call me doctor.
Really?
I have them come, what's up? I'm Bridger. I'm the doc that'll be taking care of you. And they're like, okay, cool.
You're the cool doc.
I don't know, dude.
Do you get lollipops and candy too?
Yeah, exactly.
I bet you do.
I've never been that guy that like wants to wear the white coat and like all that stuff. Like I've always tried to like downplay the doctor thing.
Really?
Yeah.
Good for you, man.
I just wanted to be a conversation. You know, like I think a lot of people get nervous when they come to the doctor. There's things called like white coat hypertension, right? Where like people who don't have hypertension get nervous when they come see a doctor. And so it looks like they have hypertension because they're all nervous. And like I've always just tried to, I don't know, like reduce whatever barriers between
That's
me and
pretty
the patient.
cool. Well, and I think too for you, right, in mental health, like nobody wants to go see a doctor about mental health.
Yeah.
And then when you get there and they look like a doctor, it just makes you think, I really am fucked up.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
but if they show up and like you're wearing slacks and a polo and tennis shoes, whatever, they're like, okay, he doesn't look like a mental health doctor.
Yeah.
I'm more comfortable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, good for you, dude. So let's dive into this because we're going to talk about a myriad of things today on the podcast and we've got a lot to get through. So talk to me about getting into medicine.
Yeah.
What made you want to get down that road?
Well, so when I was a kid, I wanted to be a doctor.
Really?
I was like I think I was probably 4. We were running around the house, me and my little brother, and he knocked into like a picture frame, and the picture frame fell over, and a piece of glass cut him down his back. He's probably 2 at the time. And everybody's like freaking out, right? Because he's a little baby and he's bleeding. And I was super protective of him. So we drove down the street to the emergency department, and this guy walks in and he just like takes total control of the situation. He like tells me like, hey, like I need you to chill out. I'm going to take care of your little brother and I'll let you help if you can like be calm. And so I was immediately like curious, and he gave me some gloves. And so I'm sitting there. I didn't do anything, obviously, but he like made me feel involved, and he, threw some stitches on my little brother's back. And I was like, this guy's awesome. Like this guy's Superman, He just came in, fixed the problem, took control of the situation, and left. And I was like, that's awesome. Like, that's what I want to do. And so I always grew up being like, okay, I want to be a doctor. But when I got to the University of Utah, my first semester, I was playing football, and I didn't know how to study at all. I was always just kind of smart enough as a kid to, get by, get good enough grades and, show up, whatever, and make it work. And I got a C in my first pre-med biology class, my first semester. And I was like, oh shit, this is a new level of football, new level of class. Like I am, we're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
And so I switched to business and was kind of doing that road. Then I stopped playing football, was pursuing the business stuff. And honestly, like I had a pretty strong spiritual experience that was like, you need to go back to medicine. And I was like, oh shoot. It was like 2 weeks before I was going to get married to Haley.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 weeks. The job I was looking at was awesome. Great money, travel, all the stuff. We had a house. She was already living there. And I come down the mountain after just sitting up there for hours just trying to figure stuff out. Like, what does this mean? What's the direction? And I tell Haley, I say, hey, I think I need to go back to school and be a doctor. And she didn't even flinch, man.
So you'd graduated everything. And then you were like, boom.
Yeah, I got to go back.
Wow.
So I told Haley, and she didn't even flinch, man. She was like, yeah, sounds good. If that's what you need to do, I'll pick up another job. We'll, downsize, whatever.
Dude. How freaking lucky are you, bro?
She is the definition of ride or die.
Seriously.
Didn't even flinch, man. And I was like, no, like, I don't think you understand like what this means. Like,
yeah,
we're going to go from making a lot of money to no money. I've got to be in school for the next 10 years. Like this changes a lot. It was, like I said, 2 weeks before we were getting married. And she's like, yeah, cool. Sounds good. Like, I'm in. If this is what you feel like you need to do, like, let's go. And so, we kind of went through our process of making sure that's what we wanted to do and praying about it and whatever. And like, it was one of those things where it's like, this is what we're doing, and just burned every other bridge. Like, that was the option.
Good for you, man.
So
holy cow.
Yeah. Kind of a weird way to get to med school for sure. And I think, that's probably one of the reasons that I was able to, go to the schools that I wanted to go to, and is because, like, on paper, it was kind of a different story. People are like, I didn't do the whole, like, this is why I want to be a doctor thing. The whole, epiphany thing doesn't seem to go over great in medicine. So
Yeah.
But, I think it was just that internal conviction of like, look, this is what I'm supposed to do. And,
well, it's great that you stayed true to yourself too. Because especially 2 weeks away from, like you said, great job, get marrying the love of your life. You're like, do I really want to upset this apple cart, or do I just go with what I'm doing?
Yeah.
But you were like, nah, I'm really getting freaking called to this. I'm going to be miserable in this job, thinking about being a doctor.
Yep.
And then 2 years and 3 years and 5 years are going to pass, and I'm going to be being timed out. Yeah. Kids are going to be potentially on the future, and you'll never become one.
Yeah.
So freaking good for you. There's so many people that would not do that. Yeah. And congrats and kudos to Haley just being like, sure, honey.
Dude, she's
freaking roll up her sleeves. Let's go.
Yeah. She's amazing.
Yeah. And I love the fact, honestly, one of the things I love about you, and there are a lot of things I love about you. No, there is. I think you're such a solid dude. But one of them is just the way you love on your wife. Like, she's an amazing, beautiful, funny, amazing woman. But last night, we were at an event last night downtown Salt Lake, and Bridger and his wife Haley were there. There was a lot of us there, actually. And you turned around and said something. I think somebody paid a compliment to Haley of like how beautiful she looks. And you turned around and went, "You think she's beautiful? She's way smarter than you said she's so hot, but what's even hotter is she's smarter than she's hot."
Yeah.
And
I said, yes, she is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah.
And she's even cooler than she is fun to look at.
Thank you. That's exactly what, and I was like, dude, what a beautiful freaking compliment. I was like, she's not even here.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even doing this for sex points.
No.
Like, she didn't even hear that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, baby, remember that one time I said this thing? No, and that's what I love about you, man. You freaking adore your wife, and you love you're true to yourself. You've been a great friend to me in the last several months that we've really got to know each other. Yeah. You're always reaching out and trying to make me be better and be better and do better. And I love that about you, man. So the fact that you had that fortitude to be like, easy road. Yeah.
Dude, I don't know if there is an easy road. You know what I mean? I think there's
no such thing.
There's no such thing. And so
you can take a shortcut, but it's ultimately longer.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, there's been times when I've ignored that voice, and it seems like a really good idea at the time.
Yeah.
And then you get down the road and you're like, oh,
shit.
This is what I was going to avoid if I would have paid attention,
Yeah.
And so I think it's just one of those things where I think because when I was younger and I had those experiences where I ignored it, and then I had those experiences when I followed it, I just kind of made that commitment where if I heard the voice, I was going to follow it.
I love that, dude. Good for you. What? So you got into medicine. You threw away this golden ticket job. You're like, going back to school, going to be a student. What made you choose the field you're in? Because that is not something that normal people pick.
No, and it's even funnier because even people in medicine, when they tell me that or when they find out that's what I'm doing, they're just like, why? Like, you do not fit in that field at all.
Well, so tell me what your field is. What is it?
Yeah, so I'm doing a residency in psychiatry. So all through med school, I was gung-ho surgery. It was either ortho or plastics. I thought about doing heart surgery for a while. I have a cousin who passed away when he was 4.
Let me get this right, bro.
Yeah.
Because you're literally about to start a job. Yeah. You're about to get married. Yeah. You're like, Haley, I think I'm going to go back to med school. I'm thinking about being a heart surgeon.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, honey, how about we take baby steps and you go get your CPR license first?
No kidding.
You know what I mean? You're like, I'm not just going to be a doctor, honey. I'm going to be a fucking heart surgeon.
Yeah.
Okay, Bridge. Like,
dude,
talk about knowing what you want. You know what I mean?
that's the hard thing. Honestly, like that, I think is one of the things I struggle with, is because I have had enough of those experiences where I felt like I knew what I wanted, and I got like the divine audible, so to speak.
Yeah.
To where I was just like, all right, well, I guess that's not it. But yeah, so when I was in med school, I was always in the OR. Like I barely went to class. I'd go to class for tests. I'd learn all the other stuff like outside, but I spent all of my time in the operating room because I wanted to become a surgeon.
Now, were you watching like in the gallery, or were you in the actual scrubbed in?
So scrubbed in.
Because I've watched Grey's Anatomy, so I know a lot of this shit.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So in med school, everybody has like a surgery rotation.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually like 6 to 8 weeks where you are on the surgery service. Most of the time, the med student doesn't do really anything.
Yeah.
Right. Because patient safety and stuff like that, like they need you to learn, but at the same time, like if you're not going to become a surgeon, it's not worth the extra time that it takes in the OR. It's not worth
for them to teach you as they're doing a procedure.
Yeah, and
just
so
sit and watch.
Yeah, so in medicine, you've got like the hierarchy, right? So the attending is like the surgeon whose patient it is, and then there's below an attending, there's a fellow, which is somebody who is subspecializing in their specialty in a certain area, right? So if the attending surgeon is a plastic surgeon, the fellow, if we're doing a hand case, would be like a hand fellow. Mm. So it's somebody who already completed a plastic surgery residency and wanted to get extra training in hand.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it's like attending, fellow, resident, med student.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
And so most med students sit there scrubbed in and try not to touch anything that's not blue and just don't get in trouble and don't get yelled at, or you're going to get like the gown of shame put on you and you're going to have to sit in the corner.
That's so good.
And so I did not want to be that guy. And so as soon as I decided I was going to go to med school, like it was surgery. Like I didn't even have another option in my mind. Like I was going to be a surgeon. And so I got to know a bunch of plastic surgeons in the community. I had already had a bunch of orthopedic surgeries from when I was playing football and stuff. So I knew those surgeons and I hit them up. And so I was just in the OR all the time. And so I got through that learning curve really early because I knew like when I get in an OR with surgeons at the hospital, like as a med student, like I want to show out, right? Yeah. I want to be somebody that actually like can be helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I spent so much time in the OR that when I got on my surgery rotation, they were like, dude, you can like actually do stuff. Like you can actually sew and you actually can like know like how to work within a surgical team so that like stuff moves faster. Because like there's this saying in medicine where like if you can find a med student that only doubles your time, you'll kiss his feet because they're just so clunky and you know what I mean? Like they just take so much extra time that when I showed up, the surgeons that I was working with were just like really happy that I had put in so much work before that they were like, oh, we can like actually use this guy. Yeah.
Well, you're committed to your craft.
Totally. Like 100%.
And I think that's prevalent too when you look at who you are as an individual. You look at the fact that, you went to the University of Utah, you played for the football team. Like that takes discipline and training and routine and systematic approach to being better and healthy and the game plan and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Like and being a team player. Yeah. And like you said, being able to move quickly, but not in a hasty way where you make mistakes. Like you learn that as a team player. Yeah. So like when you go to med school, it's like, okay, fucking scrubbed in. I've been doing this for years being a team player. Like where do you need me? I've put the reps in off the field. So when I'm on the field, it's game time, right?
Exactly.
And I think that just shows to a testament of who you are. Yep. And so it doesn't surprise me when you say that at all. My God, that just makes sense. You're an overachiever, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. Terrified of underachieving.
Terrified of just achieving.
Yeah. Sounds terrible.
It doesn't sound terrible. It makes you who you are.
Yeah.
It makes you who you are. So, you're spending all this time in the OR. You want to be a surgeon. What changed?
Where'd that go? Yeah. We had a patient She was late teens. Came in, and I was on the trauma surgery service, and I don't think I've ever told this story, but she had been eating her hair since she was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah. So she's late teens, comes in, and she's like super anemic, which means her like blood levels are low.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's just really tired and like has this like stomach pain and whatever. And so we're like, I don't know, like have GI scope her and see what's going on. So they scoped her, and GI just said in the note, like, hey, we can't like remove this endoscopically. Like she needs to go to the OR. So we're kind of like, what the hell, GI, just like do your job, pull the hair out. You know, like we had no idea. We were just like, okay, well, guess we're taking her to the OR for a big open X lap. So we've got this girl on the table, and it was really interesting because like my mind was thinking about like, how do you get here? You know, like how does somebody get to the point where they need like this massive, like, you know, 8-inch incision on their stomach, like huge, like big open.
So was it a fur ball inside?
So we get in there, and the surgeon's like, all right, feel in here and see if you can feel it. So we get everything opened up, and I'm feeling around, and I'm like, yeah, I can feel it, but it feels like huge. And he's like, well, how huge? I'm like huge. So he goes in there with these big clamps, and he pulls this piece out, that's like this big. And they're like, oh, you got it. And he's like, no, not at all. So we keep fishing around. And this thing, so you have 2 sphincters on your stomach, one at the top and one at the bottom, to keep stuff from going up or going out. And the hair had gone up this one and out this one, and it had filled her stomach. And so he gets his finger up there, and we're messing around. We are pulling this off, and we get this massive hairball out. And I'm like, how do you get here? When
you say massive, in reference of size, what are you talking about? Football?
Oh, I mean, it was probably
softball?
8-9 inches long, big old knotted, twisted, yeah, huge, like
holy
massive
shit.
And listening to all the comments and stuff, like, oh, she's crazy, and I'm like, yeah, maybe, but like, what gets a person here, right? Like, how do you get to this place? And I saw myself being interested in like, yeah, we solved the problem. Yeah, we got the hairball out. Yeah, we closed her up. But like,
what's the cause?
I was more interested in like how she got there.
Yeah.
And so as I was thinking about those things out loud, the surgeons were like, dude, we don't give a shit. It doesn't matter. We solved the problem. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have time to try and wonder about how everybody got here. It's, you know, somebody goes ass first through a windshield at 85 miles an hour. They don't need us to think about what got them there.
Why they were speeding.
No, they need us to put them back together, right? Keep them alive. And so that was like the first time when I kind of noticed this, like, yeah, but my brain wants to think about how this person got here and why they were in this situation in the first place, and how if they could have seen somebody months ago, they wouldn't have even been here. And so I saw myself starting to think more about that. And the surgery side of things was just like, dude, like, we don't have time to think about stuff like that. Like, you're a technician. Mm-hmm. Like, you need to know how to fix problems. You need to know how to, you know, cut and fix things. Leave all that shit to everybody else. And so
let me just pause there real quick, because I think that's crazy interesting to me, and I am on the same path as you. If I was to pull a 9-inch fucking hairball out of somebody's stomach, I wouldn't be just like, woof, dodged a bullet there.
Yeah.
I'd be like, okay, why? Is this going to happen again? Mm-hmm. Do we schedule her for another 5 years to come get this thing removed again? Like, where's the problem?
Yeah.
And so I'm an ex-engineer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm a military engineer. I can't ever imagine, and to break it down to real simple engineering, if you take your car into a garage to get new tires, and they turn and say, yep, your tires are a little flat. We can tell that there's wearing on unequal wearing on the tires, but we didn't really look into why that was happening. We just put 4 new ones on for you, and, you know, we'll see you in another 10,000 miles.
Yeah.
Well, fix the freaking problem.
Yeah.
You're telling me not that wearing correctly. Where's the fundamental cause?
Yeah.
Fix the root cause, save the problem.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But I also see in your point of view where doctors are like, I'm not here to...
Yeah.
There's a field of people that fix that.
Yep.
We are the last line of defense. We're here to make this right, put it back together, move on.
Yeah.
It's patient in, patient out, patient in, patient out. But there has to be a time where it's like, okay, we can't just keep fixing.
Yeah.
We have to get emotionally engaged with these people.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
And sure, you know, you cut your finger off at work with a bandsaw. I'm sure you didn't do it on purpose. You've had an accident.
Yeah.
But things like that,
Yeah.
you know, there's got to be more
Yeah.
mental health around that.
Yeah. And it was interesting to me because like I'd go in, so you do what's called rounding on patients. So if you've seen Grey's Anatomy, right, it's when like the head doctor's asking all the baby doctors all the questions, and if they get the question wrong, and then they
get a cookie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've seen Grey's Anatomy and all of House.
Okay, there you go.
I could literally scrub in tomorrow.
Perfect, you're ready.
I'm ready, bro.
And so it was interesting because I'd go see, you know, this girl, and she'd be like, you know, her boyfriend was in the room with her, and he had no idea what was going on. He just thought she had like an ulcer or something, and she needed surgery because she didn't tell him. And you know, like her family, you know, only, you know, a couple members of her family knew what was going on. And so it was this kind of thing where I was like, man, this girl does not feel like she has anybody that she can really go to about this stuff. And so when you're rounding, especially on surgery, efficiency is everything. You know what I mean? Like you got 20 patients that you've got to see. You got a bunch of surgeries planned. The surgeon wants to know like pre-op, post-op, like how are they doing, right? They don't care about all the other stuff. And so I was like, hey, you know, she doesn't really know what's going on with, you know, this, or boyfriend doesn't know what's going on and she doesn't want us to tell him. And it was almost like, okay, dude, just like, come on. Like I've seen you be efficient on all the other patients. Like, why are we talking about this shit here? And so I was like, man, like somebody needs to care about this, you know? And so I finished my surgery rotation. I get on my psychiatry rotation, and I was planning on hating it. And I get on the child and adolescent service up at uni, which is it's now different, but it's the University Neuropsychiatric Institute. And I'm on service on child and adolescent. I've got this 16-year-old kid, and I'm talking with the doc before we walk in. And she says, this kid's rotten, man. He's just mean. The kid is just mean. And he yelled at me yesterday, so our interview was cut short, and, you know, you go try it. I'm like, all right. She goes, you know, just can't be any worse than it was for me yesterday, you know? So we walk in, and this kid's like I said, 16, 17, laying on the couch with his feet like up on the wall. We walk in, and he starts talking shit immediately. I'm like, what's up, dude? He goes, fuck you. I was like, oh, yeah? And he like looks at me. I was like, dude, if you're trying to hurt my feelings, you got to do better than that. I was like, that was pretty weak. I says, I can leave and come back in if you want to give it another go.
Want another go?
Yeah. I was like, that was pathetic. And the doctor's looking at me like, holy shit. And he looks at me. He's like, you can't talk to me like that. I says, dude, I'm a med student. I'm not supposed to know what the hell I'm doing. I said, I can do anything. I said, it's her license.
It's her license.
Said, I'm just here to learn. So if I screw it up, doesn't matter.
This is a teaching experience for me.
Exactly. And you could tell he was like, what the hell? I said, look, dude. I said, I don't know why you're here. I've never talked to you before. I don't know what's going on, but you're here for a reason. And I imagine you telling the doctors to eat shit every time they come in to talk to you is not getting you home any sooner. So if you want to talk, we could figure out what's going on, see if we can help you out, and then get you home. I said, or we can just do this game. I said, it doesn't matter. I said, if you leave or don't leave, I said, it makes no difference in my life.
My day still moves on.
I don't care.
Yeah.
If you're gone, I'm just going to have to write a note on another patient. I said, so really, I don't give a shit if you're here. I don't give a shit if you're home. But if you do, you might want to play ball.
Fair play.
And my watch is going off with the attending doctor's texting me. She's like, holy shit, keep going. He seems to be responding. And I'm just like looking down on my watch as her messages are coming through. And I'm like, all right. And so we leave, and she's like, how did you know how to like handle that situation that way? I was like, I don't know, just like felt right, you know? And she was like, I think you might actually be pretty good at this. And I was like, huh, okay.
Sometimes you just got to meet people at their level.
Yeah.
They come in aggressive.
Yes.
And I've learned this in sales.
Yeah.
If somebody's aggressive and hostile, meet them at hostility and then bring them down.
Yep.
You know, or if you want somebody to ramp up, bring them, meet them at low energy and rise them up with you.
Exactly.
So if somebody comes in and tells you to eat shit, it's like, oh, we eating shit today?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Can I get a serving?
Yeah.
All right, let's go.
Yep.
It's like, oh, fuck you. Well, fuck you too.
Yeah,
Don't come into my office and tell me to fuck off. You.
Exactly.
You know? And honestly, it stuns them.
Exactly.
It's a punch in the face.
Yes.
They're like, oh, God, I didn't expect that from a doctor.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, shit. Well, I can't beat this guy.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way around him. So I may as well play ball with him because I'm not going to beat him.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
So I love that dude. You are Gregory House. That's exactly what he does on the show. Have you seen House?
Oh, yeah.
You are Gregory House.
There you go.
It's like, I don't need to serve you. Just get out of here.
Yeah, exactly.
You have a problem.
Yep.
So you did psychiatry. You beat this little bastard.
Yeah, he was my first patient. And I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like, I get to kind of, because I've always been good at talking with people and communicating and reading people and stuff like that.
Comes from university, being on a big sports team, a lot of characters.
Yeah.
You know, you got to hang. Like, I'm an ex-rugby player. You got to hang in the locker room.
Yeah.
Somebody talks shit to you, you got to throw it right back. Because if you don't, it's like, oh,
yeah,
keep going. Mm-hmm. You know?
And so I saw that. And so I was on child and adolescent for a couple of weeks. And then I was on the adult service. And then I was at the VA. And I loved the vets because they come in just same salty, aggressive, just pissed off. And
there's a lot of us like that.
Totally. And I loved it. And I loved it because all the other doctors are like, oh, this guy's mean. And I was like, I bet he'll like me.
Yeah.
So we come in and they're like, how do you get these guys to like you? I says, because I match their salty.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, this is bullshit. I'm like, I agree. Like,
yeah.
You do?
What?
I'm like, yeah, it sucks. Life sucks. You've been through really hard shit. You got sent across the world to do terrible things to other people. And, we don't need the job done anymore. So nobody cares. I get it. Right? I get it. What are you going to do about it? And they're like, nobody's talked to me like this before. Like I've had a bunch of admissions. And so anyways, I'm not pretending like I came in here knowing what I was doing, but I came in to the field and I felt like my natural inclinations put me in a good position to help people. And I was like, holy shit, I kind of like this.
Do you think coming into that field without the expectation of liking it, you're like, I just got to get through this. It's my rotation. This isn't what I want to do for the rest of my life. So
exactly,
whatever, just fuck it. Just get it done.
Yep.
So you came in, you didn't come in with this whole holistic bedside manner.
No.
Tell me your problems. Like, no, you little shit. You want to do this today? You want to dance?
Exactly.
Turn up the music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think because I went in there with zero expectations.
Yeah.
And
created your own path.
Really no pressure. I was able to be open to like, dude, if you went into this field, you could make a massive difference because you do it so differently than everybody else.
Yeah.
And I wasn't ready for that.
Yeah.
And all through med school, it was like, what kind of surgeon am I going to be? It's like, am I going to do plastics? Am I going to do ortho? Am I going to do peds? Am I going to do cardio? Like, what am I going to do? And I never felt like one fit perfectly. You know what I mean? It's like you trying on a bunch of shoes and it's like you got a hot spot on your heel and then this one hurts your ankle and that one's too tight up there and then this one's too short. You know what I mean? It's just like I never found that one that like fit perfectly. And when I was on psychiatry, I was like, shit, this actually fits pretty good. And not because of like the field or how most people in the field treat their patients, but because I saw an opportunity of massive impact, a huge need, which 5-6 years ago when I decided I was going to go into psychiatry, like not even close to the demand that we have now.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a massive opportunity here. Mm-hmm. If I can come into this, learn what I need to learn from the field, but find a way to do it my way. I said, I think I can actually help a ton of people. And it just felt good. Like it just felt like the decision was like made. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy shit, I'm going to be a psychiatrist.
I'm going to be a quack.
Oh my gosh. So I come home and I tell Haley and I'm like, hey, I think I'm going to do psych. She starts crying.
Really?
Oh, she was like, what
She's like,
do
are we
you
doing
mean?
this again, Bridger?
Yeah. She's like, what the hell?
For the love of God.
She's like, we're doing all of this shit so that you can become a surgeon, right? Like everything has been surgery. And I'm like, babe, like this is just the direction. Like I know it. And she's like, all right, like sounds good. And so it's just been one of those things where it's like, dude, I don't know why I'm doing it, but I know that I'm supposed to be where I'm at.
You do know why you're doing it because it's where you feel you can make the biggest change.
I hope so.
I mean, you know so.
Yeah.
You've experienced it.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't. The thing I know about you is you don't make decisions lightly.
No.
Like from your physique, like you are in phenomenal shape. You don't make this. You know, you don't put things in your body that don't serve you. You don't do things that don't serve you. You know, you work out because it serves you. Like you did this, and you chose that path because you knew you'd be freaking great at it, and you knew this is where you could make the biggest difference. And I think from hearing this story, which is the first time I've heard this, by the way, that. Just the fact that you were thinking differently to every other surgeon in the room shows that you were never meant to be a surgeon.
Yeah. Well, and it's been interesting because I feel like I'm just there to ruffle everybody's feathers. You know what I mean? Like I'm with the surgeons and I'm good. For where I was in training, I was really good. But like I was thinking about shit that they're like, dude, drop it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You know, and then I get on psych and I'm like, yeah, but we can like actually do this and do this. And what if we look at this way? And they're like, dude, just chill out. Just stop rocking the boat. But
isn't that what doctors are meant to do, Bridge?
Probably.
No, seriously, isn't that what you would think the doctors do?
That's what
if a surgeon is in an operating room and they take a freaking 10-pound bag of hair out of somebody's stomach that's 9 inches long, they don't just button her up and go, send her off. They should be like, okay, button her up. I want psych down here. I want to have her talk to psych because this isn't normal behavior.
Yeah.
This isn't just a patient in, patient out. This is a patient in. It's a whole care thing. But it just seems there's like
the system just not. It's just not built that.
And
way.
I know you have a lot of issues with the healthcare system because we've talked about that. You're like, I don't like the way they do this, and I don't like the way they do that. But I think you saw right from the get go that there is something here missing.
Yeah.
And if you do that, I'm sure there's other surgeons out there doing that. Just don't want to, like you said, ruffle the feathers.
You look at a guy like Nick Howland, right? Amazing surgeon, and he truly gives a shit.
Oh, 1,000%.
He truly cares, right?
Yep.
Which is why he's as successful as he is as a surgeon.
Yep.
There's plenty of people that can cut like he does, right?
Yep.
And they can sew like he can.
But it's his pre-care, post-care, and it's not just
he cares.
It's the care point of it. But what I love about Nick, and I'm sure you're so the same, is like, I want to know why you want to do this. What's your reasonings behind it? I'm not going to say you can't do it because it's your decision. But I also want to know is this a mentally healthy decision you're making? Yeah. You know, you want to get a boob job or a tummy tuck or a butt lift or whatever. Whatever it is. Have you thought about it? And is it a mentally healthy decision? Because for me in real estate, if somebody doesn't have their mental faculty, it's on me whether I take them as a client.
Totally.
Can you imagine me selling somebody's house who's not right in the right
frame of mind? Yeah.
And then they come back and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I was thinking. I was not in the right frame of mind. And then this goes inside my house and I'm homeless. That's on me. Yeah. I should have read that red flag, you know? And so if any time there's a case where, like, you know, even somebody's elderly, got a little bit of Alzheimer's, you know, we need a third party in here that is mentally stable and can do this transaction. And I think it's important for doctors too. Like, oh, you want a boob job? Great. How's your mental health? Yeah. Why are you doing this? Yeah. You know? Yeah. And so I love the fact that you bucked that trend and we're like, no, there's a problem here and I want to go full circle. Yeah. So you got into psychiatry. You're the quack, the doc. How long do you have left in your residency?
1.5 years.
Okay. And then are we changing anything soon or are we sticking with this?
Yeah, we're sticking with it.
I'm asking for Haley more than anybody else.
Yeah, no kidding. Gosh, dude. Honest answer is I don't know, man. Like, I don't usually get a whole lot of heads up. It's like, hey, this is where we're going. And I'm like,
I was driving to work today and I took a wrong turn and I found this is actually a great path.
Exactly.
And now we're off.
Train is leaving the station. Either you're on or you're not, but it's going. So yeah, no plan to change yet. Okay. Yeah. Well, and the thing is what I'm doing with like the mental health and performance stuff, you know, working with athletes and, you know, kind of like the executive coaching. I'm going to hate the term coach. Mark and I talked about this on his podcast, and I don't think there's anybody really doing what I want to do. Okay. And so there's not really like a clear path forward because nobody's done it.
Make your own.
Exactly.
It's not like you've not done it before.
Exactly. So I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, I've got 1.5 years left in psych residency. I'm through most of like the required portion of my residency. And I'm going to be able to spend more and more time doing the stuff that I want to do, like with athletes. So I'm working with university athletics, seeing athletes on the performance side. And the cool thing about working with athletes is, I give them a little bit of a spiel, before I start meeting with them. I'll sit in front of the team and talk with them, but it's like there's mental health and there's mental performance. And sometimes you need one, sometimes you need the other, sometimes you need both. Mm-hmm. But to use your car analogy, right? Like if you've got somebody that brings their car in and like the inside of all 4 tires are just super worn out and the outside's got plenty of tread and they just keep replacing tires, it's not a tire issue, right? It's an alignment issue.
Yeah, 1,000%, yeah.
And so sometimes you need an alignment and sometimes you need new tires. But the thing that I've noticed in like this personal development space and like, everybody's a coach nowadays, is everybody just wants to paint it red, throw in a spoiler and, pretend like, hey,
put in a new sound system and ignore the problem.
Exactly. If I can turn up the volume on the sound system loud enough, I don't hear the grinding. And as long as it's red and it looks good going down the street, I don't give a shit if it's dumping smoke.
It's so true, bro. When I was younger, I was like, I don't care that there's a clunking noise and my brakes are squealing.
Turn up the volume.
Turn up the bass, baby. Yep, you won't hear it.
Exactly. Exactly. And that works for a teenager and his $800 first car. You know what I mean?
But when you're driving a Ferrari, it's a little different.
And so that's where I love that analogy because to me it makes sense, right? And you mentioned a Ferrari. That's the way I look at it. And I love sitting across from a Ferrari. Mm-hmm. I love sitting across from a guy who's already kicking the shit out of life. Family's good, body's good, money's good, business is good, friends are good. And they're just like, dude, I just don't know how to get more. Like, I don't know how to get better. And it's really, I don't want to say easy, but it's not super complicated when you're sitting across from somebody whose life is a mess to give them advice to make it better.
Yeah.
Right?
Because the smallest piece of advice can make the biggest difference.
Exactly.
When you're looking at a well-tuned machine, it's like, I really have to dig here.
Exactly.
Because everything else is gravy, but where's the underlying issue?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm just my interests, I'm far more interested in how do I get that guy who's a Ferrari 5-10% more effective? Because if I can do that, it's such a bigger rock that I'm throwing in that water, right? And the ripple effect is so much more massive than if somebody who's, and I empathize with the situations and stuff. It's just not intellectually stimulating for me to sit across from somebody who's like, yeah, I don't have a job. I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted to that. I've alienated, my entire family and nobody wants to help me. And it's like, that sucks because like as a kid, you were probably set up to fail.
Yeah.
That's really hard. And we see a ton of that.
So let's touch on that because that was one of the key points for this conversation, especially as it's a parenting podcast. But what are some of the things that you see with the clients or your patients, sorry, they're not clients, the patients that you see and you deal with in the high performance world?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're seeing mental health wise that is reoccurring? You're like, I'm starting to see a pattern here.
Yeah. That
comes from childhood.
Yeah. I think 2 that stand out to me are kind of just opposite ends of the same spectrum. Is like you have the kids who have been coddled and then you have the kids who have been like neglected and neither are great, and they have their own unique set of challenges, right? So you have a kid who's, always, either lived at home or close to home and, goes home every night for dinner at mom's house and, played at the local schools and was kind of like the local hometown hero kind of thing. And then, he goes up to, Division I level college athletics and is away from home for the first time and just doesn't have the ability to like function without like that level of support, right? Like it's really hard that first time they're away from home and then the speed changes from high school or JUCO to Division I. And it's just really, really overwhelming because they've had a really easy life up to then that they've never built that like grit, that ability to like do hard shit.
Yeah.
And so there's that side where it's just like, you know, parents did everything they could to make this kid's life as easy as possible. And it was until they're, you know, now it's time to swim on your own and you're just in the deep end and sorry, bud, like you don't have floaties.
Safety net's gone. Yeah.
And so there's that side of things. And then you have the other side of things where it's like, you know, kid was living in his car because both parents, you know, dad was either in jail or dead and mom was working 2 or 3 jobs in a good situation. Other situations, she just didn't give a shit. And she, you know, put him out on the corner at, you know, 10 years old and said, sorry, bud, figure it out.
Yeah.
And so you see kids coming from that background and they've always just had themselves to rely on. And so you got a coach who's trying to coach them, saying, hey, I need you to do this. And
they're not a team player.
Yeah, they're not a team player because they've always had to rely on themselves, and the people that were supposed to take care of them and that they were supposed to be able to trust didn't take care of them and weren't trustworthy. And so they get in this team setting and the coach is like, why is this kid being such an asshole? Why can't he just be a team player? And I'm like, well, where the hell's he ever had that before?
He's never had a authority figure that has always been there.
Took care of him.
Yeah. And so it's almost like the one that was coddled can work as a team but can't work individually, and the one that was not coddled can work individually but can't work as a team. Like how do you know what I mean? It's like, okay, you and you need to be freaking room buddies.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need to blend together and bounce off of each other and figure this out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'd say those are like 2 of the more common spectrums that you see, especially from childhood.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's, and I don't have kids. So I was kind of nervous coming on this podcast, and I've been on a bunch of podcasts and stuff before, and you know that I can bullshit with the best of them and just chat. But as I was coming into this, I'm like, this is like a parenting podcast and I don't have kids. And I've always, and you've probably noticed this about me, if I don't know, I just don't say anything.
Yeah.
I'm not that guy that's going to be like, hey, let me jump in the conversation and try and just like, I'm like, if I don't know what I'm talking about, I just don't say it. I can't
swim. I keep my ass out of the pool.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And I'm pretty good at understanding which pools I can swim in and which ones I should either learn more about or just don't dive into those.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of nervous coming into this podcast because I was just like, babe, I was talking to Haley. I'm like, I just don't know if I feel qualified to talk about how to parent. All I know is I've seen a ton of people, either patients or clients, that were really screwed up by their childhood. Mm-hmm. And they come to me trying to help them through that process. And I give it my best.
Do you think that actually serves you not being a parent? Drop my pen again. Because you can sit there and you can look at it objectively, not as a parent.
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways to answer that question. I think one is it goes kind of back to what I was telling that kid, right? Like, dude, you get better, you don't get better. My life's the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're not my kid.
I'm still here to 8 p.m., kid.
Yeah. If you grow up to be an asshole, it's not going to be because I wasn't a good enough doctor. It's because you're an asshole.
Yeah.
And so I could kind of have that space where it's like, yeah, well, dude, I'll do my best and I'm here to help you. But if you don't want my help and you're not going to do what I say, like, I'm still going to go home to an awesome wife at night and I don't care.
I sleep easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think part of it is like, yeah, easy for you to say because like I don't have to deal with the consequences. And on the other hand, I think it's one of those things where because I don't have kids that I have parented a certain way, it allows me to approach these people that come to me with these struggles and situations to look at it from a way of, well, this isn't just how I would do it because I haven't done it. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I'm not looking at them like, well, if you were my kid, you know, based on the way I raised my kids, this is how I would have handled this conversation. I just look at the situation and I go, okay, how did we get here and where do we actually want to go?
Yeah, you look at it objectively.
And so I'm definitely not that one that's going to say like, oh, I'm going to be a great parent because of all the stuff that I've been through. And I mean, I've talked to you and I've talked to Mark and some of the other guys in the group where it's like, I'm really, really grateful to be surrounded by a lot of really good dads because I see how important it is to be a good dad and to be a good parent. And I want to learn as much as I can from you guys before I dive in that pool.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, also too, you know, with all the things that you hear at work, which no doubt play on your mind. Like you see trauma every day.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, it's not, arms missing or, you don't have...
Well, I mean, I see vets too, so it is that.
Yeah, you do see that. You do see the wounded. But what I'm saying is, like, you're not in the OR. You're not rushing to save somebody's life right there and then. They're not bleeding out on the table. But you are dealing with mental trauma, which that vet or that kid or that athlete that you speak to today could ultimately go and do something this afternoon that takes their life. Yeah. And you're like, shit, what one more sentence could I have said that got them to tomorrow? Yeah. And then that lays on you. And then you got to go home and dwell on that and think on that. And that's not easy for any doctor, regardless of your professional or your section, you got to deal with that, right? Yeah. Has it had an effect on you and Haley thinking about having kids in the future where it's like, God, we've got... I hear this and I hear this and I hear this and I hear this. Jesus, do I even really want to bring a kid into this world right now? Like, am I cut out for this? Yeah. How do we parent from where's our parenting compass? Yeah. Yeah. And I think I would hope most people would ask themselves that question before they have kids. You'd hope. From my experience, most don't. Yeah. So I don't think I'm special in that regard of like, I really want to be a good parent and like be a person who is equipped to be a good parent before I'm a parent. Mm-hmm. But Haley and I come from such different backgrounds too, that when you're talking about like parenting strategy and stuff, dude, we could not have grown up in the more opposite families. Yeah. And so I think even if you didn't go through like a ton of traumatic things and, you always had food on the table and roof over your head kind of stuff, I still think two people coming from completely different backgrounds trying to come together and have like a conversation, a common approach. It's like how you're going to like try and raise this little human to be somebody that people like being around. Mm-hmm. I think no matter what, you have to go through that conversation and decide, what are the values. And it's the more I learn, the more I think it all comes back to the same principles. You know what I mean? Whether I'm sitting across from a business guy or an athlete or some inpatient psychiatric patient who, doesn't want to be here anymore. Mm-hmm. I think the principles apply across the board of like, what matters to you? Yeah. What matters to you? Where do you want to go? What are the guiding values? Yeah, I think that's huge. I really do think that's huge. I think anybody that has kids has to have that dialed in, and it could be, we have, Andrew and I have friends of ours, the husband's Jewish and the wife is Christian. Mm-hmm. And they had to have the conversation like, okay, well, which religion do we raise the kids in? Do we celebrate Christmas? Yeah. If we don't do Christmas because we do Hanukkah, then how do we explain to the kids when they're older why all their friends have Christmas and trees and Christmas Day and they don't? Like, so they have this beautiful blend of like a Jewish Christian lifestyle. Yep. They have a Christmas tree and a holiday and the Christmas that everybody else has, but they also celebrate Hanukkah. Yeah. And so their kids get in the best, but you have to have those freaking conversations. And what's cool is that they were able to do that because my family growing up had a similar situation. So my mom's very LDS. And my dad really doesn't like Mormons. And so I'm a product of a household that didn't have those conversations. Yeah. Right? That didn't find a way to like compromise and have a middle ground. And so your point is so well taken that it's so important to have those conversations and to decide like, hey, I've got my beliefs, you've got your beliefs. How are we going to come together? What does that blended process look like? Yeah. So that we can. Well, it's not just about kids, mate. It's, it's so funny. Talia Hudson, when she came on the podcast several episodes ago, she was telling me that her and Bracken, before they even got married, went through marriage counseling. And I looked at her and I was like, what? Yep. She went, yeah, we went through weeks of marriage counseling before we got married. And I was like, okay, I'm confused here. I was like, is it an LDS thing? I don't know, right? Yeah. And she's like, no. She goes, Bracken and I needed to sit down and figure out what page we were on before we said I do. And I was like, holy cow, Talia. Yeah. I'm like, why isn't that mandated?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to get a wedding license, or you want to get married? You want a wedding license?
Yeah.
Great. Which day would you like to take your freaking marriage classes?
Yeah.
Before we allow you to say I do, and you don't get your license until you've done your marriage class.
Yeah.
And I'm like, how beautiful is that? You literally come out of 6 weeks of marriage classes and going, we know how we're going to operate with our finances. We know our roles and responsibilities within the family and the marriage. We know where our 10-year vision, 5-year, 10-year vision is with regards to jobs, kids, lifestyles, countries, locations. We have all this laid out because we've spent 6 weeks talking about it. Now, when we say I do, there is no trauma. There's no bullshit to navigate past. I'm like, fucking A. All right.
No, it's smart. And you can look at their life and you can be like, oh, well.
And then you look at Bracken and Talia's life and go, well, that worked.
That worked. Yeah, exactly. It's not one of those things where,
they
were just huck and pray, see what happens.
Gee, they've made it work. They've got a beautiful family. They adopted over the age of 40. I'm like, that shit all was played out 20 plus years ago when you took those marriage classes. Yeah. And so I think that for me, it was like, anybody wanted to get married, I say it again, go do marriage classes before you get married. Yeah. And if you're thinking about having kids, talk.
Yes.
Listen to the doc. So I have one last question as we start to wrap up, mate, because the time has just flown by, and this has been a really beautiful, beautiful podcast. As we were talking about what you are seeing today in your patients with regards to childhood trauma, what do you, and I know, you don't have a crystal ball, so you can't really predict, but what do you think, or what do you see right now that worries you that we are going to see in adults 10 or 15 years down the road because of what society is doing to kids today?
I think there's a couple ways I could answer that question, but I think just the major overarching principle is a lack of personal responsibility. Scares the shit out of me.
Dig into that.
As I see people coming in, so whether it's a patient or a client or an athlete or whatever, you see a lot of people who have excuses as to why they can't be where they say they want to be. Mm-hmm. And they come to you in this, I've got to have a really good story, and I'm going to try and convince whoever I'm talking to, whether it's me or another doc or a coach or whatever, as to why I can't have what I want, right? I want to be happy. I want to be healthy, but my parents treated me like shit, or I have ADD, or I have anxiety, or I have depression, or whatever, right? And one of the hardest things that I have to do is get people to understand that if you want the outcome, if you truly want to get where you say you want to go, it's going to take whatever it takes to get there. Mm-hmm. And you pretending like you giving me an excuse, even if it's a great one, is somehow an adequate consolation prize instead of getting where you actually say you want to go, it only hurts you. Mm-hmm. And I see the societal trends reinforcing that behavior.
Where'd you see it most?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Well, I know that's easy to say, where do you see it most? But
it's
you've got social media.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's the news and this victim mentality.
That's the buzzword. Yeah. Victim mentality. You're absolutely right.
Because they have reasons, and it's like, cool. Do you want your reasons, or do you want the result that you say that you want? You can't have both.
Reasons or results.
And if you're going to just grasp as hard as you can onto these reasons that you've carried through your whole life, right? Of I can't do this because I've got this. And you just want to squeeze onto that, dude, you're not going to be able to reach the results. You got to let go of all the shit that you're carrying around that's telling you why you can't go where you want to go in order to get there.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing is it seems like society, whatever, is like trying to get people to just be okay with their reasons.
Just be mediocre.
Yeah. well, you have all these reasons, so you don't need to go there, right? That's okay. Yeah, you really wanted to be a great athlete. Yeah, you really wanted to be a great parent. Yeah, you really wanted to be a great dad. But you have all this shit, man. You're carrying all this stuff. It's really hard. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you can have them. They're real. I'm not saying they're not real, but you can't have both.
Yeah.
And I think that's what worries me most is this reinforcing of telling people why it's okay for them to just give up rather than saying, yeah, that sucks. That's really hard. You've been through a lot. And those experiences could put you in a position to go even further than your goal if you look at them a different way. But instead, you're looking at those things as setbacks and weights that you need to carry around, is so you're not even going to try.
Yeah. Dude,
and that's hard.
That's huge. That's really huge. And I see and I feel that, because as crazy as that sounds, I've been in that boat.
Dude, we all have.
Where I've given reasons versus results.
We all have.
But I agree with you. I see it more and more and more in society, where it's just the victim mentality, right? I also have this fear that kids will stop pushing themselves to be better because they get the award at a shitty level anyway.
There's a different reward.
Oh, and it infuriates the piss out of me.
Yeah.
Oh, everybody gets a participation award? No. The winners get a winner's trophy, and the losers get a loser's trophy. When I grew up, losers got shit. Yeah. The winners got the trophy. The losers cried on the way home. But they tried.
See, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? Is I won a lot of trophies growing up.
Yeah.
And I never gave a shit about the trophy. It wasn't the trophy. It wasn't the gold medal, right? I grew up ski racing, playing football, archery, taekwondo. Like, I won a lot of shit growing up. And you want to know what I really chased? Was the feeling of winning. Mm-hmm. It wasn't the trophy. I didn't give a shit about the trophy. And so that's what I'm trying to, like, that's a perfect example, right? Yeah. Because it's like, oh, everybody gets a trophy. Great. So you're not playing for the trophy.
They don't experience the win. Exactly. They don't experience that high. So
exactly.
Then what are they going to chase?
Yeah. And I've also got my ass kicked a ton.
Oh, hell yeah.
Which is why I enjoy the win.
Which is why I enjoy the win more.
If you just play and there's no score and everybody walks home with a trophy and a halftime treat, it's like, cool, what the hell are we doing here?
Then why are you even keeping score?
Why are we here?
Just go out there and kick a ball around and we're not even going to keep score.
Yeah.
Well, why? Because it doesn't matter. You're all going to win at the end.
Yep.
Like, hell no.
Yeah.
You need to be punched in the nose to realize what being punched in the nose feels like.
Yeah. You've got to experience the lows to appreciate the highs.
Yeah.
And taking both of those away, it's just like, dude, what are we doing?
I try and tell that with my kids. I'm like, listen, you're not going to succeed in everything. And prime example, and I'm so proud of the way that my eldest daughter, Lily, took this on. So 2 years ago, she got into volleyball.
Okay.
She's got friends at school that are into volleyball, and they've been in volleyball for years.
Okay.
And she wanted to get into volleyball. She was super nervous. I don't know anything about volleyball. I'm terrible, blah, 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 blah. And so she trained, she practiced, she's doing the after school events, and she got on like the B team. Her friends are on the A team. And so she I remember this conversation. She came on one night, she was really depressed. I was like, what's going on, boo? And she's like, well, everybody at school comes out to watch the A team. She goes, but nobody watches the B team. All the parents are there for all the A team kids, but nobody watches the B team kids. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And she goes, it just kind of sucks. She's like, my friends are on the A team. I'm not good enough to be on the A team. Nobody watches us play, but everybody watches the A team play. She's like, it's just really sucky. And she goes, I'm kind of getting like angry about it, and I don't think I want to do volleyball anymore because I'm not good enough to be on the A team. And I went, oh, hold on. Listen here. I said, and she loves Harry Potter, or she did at the time, right? I said, let me break this down to you. Imagine you're Ron Weasley. You've grown up in the wizarding world all your life. You love Quidditch you've got posters of Quidditch all around your room. You are a diehard Quidditch fan. You meet this muggle. You become friends with him. He knows nothing about the wizarding world and becomes one of the youngest seekers in freaking Quidditch history. How do you think Ron feels? She goes, he's going to be pretty upset. I said, yeah. Does he ever show it? Or does he always cheerlead for Harry? She goes, well, he always cheerleads. I said, yeah, and what happens? She goes, well, he gets on the team. I said, because he sees Harry, he keeps working, he keeps training, he keeps getting better, and he gets on the team. I was like, why don't you just support your friends and be thankful that they're on the team and keep working your ass off, and one day you'll be there. She was like, okay. She did. Worked her ass off. She went to tryouts this last week or 2 weeks ago to get on a pretty big team. She didn't get it. And I came and I said, how'd it go? And she goes, yeah, I didn't get it. I said, okay, how are you feeling? She went, yeah, I'm okay. I said, how did the twins do? She went, oh, they got it. I said, how do you feel? She went, I'm really happy for them. I said, cool. I said, so what are we going to do? She goes, I'm just going to keep training, keep working harder, and maybe I'll get it next year. I'm like, all right, there we go, Harry. Let's go. Good job, Ron. But it's that thing, right? Kids just get so dumbed down and beaten down of like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm like, look at it differently.
But how cool is it? So a couple things. One, she felt comfortable to come to you. And one thing, and if people miss like your first episode or your first couple episodes or whatever, like you stepped into the dad role when they were how old?
3 and 1.
Yeah. So it's like, okay, the ball is already rolling.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Okay. Pick this up and figure out what to do with it, but it's moving. You got to figure this out. So one, the fact that she felt comfortable to come to you and say, hey, I'm struggling with this. Awesome. Yeah. Because so many kids don't feel comfortable going to their parents and saying, hey, I'm struggling. She looked at you as somebody who could help her.
She looked at me as an athlete,
exactly.
I cut an athletic figure.
Yeah, there you go. But the fact that she, first of all, felt comfortable coming to you is amazing.
Yeah.
The fact that you were able to, I mean, you're a master communicator, you know this, but that you were able to communicate with her in a way that painted a picture that she understood. How do you take a really high level principle, right? Because there's a lot there. Like you could pick apart that story and there's lessons all over that. Yeah. How can you take something that's way up here and bring it down to a simple, clear message that she's going to receive? And then you not only saw it land there,
but it landed here.
You saw it
here and landed here.
And that's how you know that you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Is you teach the lesson once and you see it's like, oh, she learned that. Oh, she's actually understanding that. Wow, look at her apply that. Yeah. And you're seeing it go further and further down. And dude, I don't know. This is why when you started this podcast, I was like, yes, I'm going to study the shit out of this before I become a dad because you're so good at this stuff.
I'll give you so many things not to do, bro.
Yeah, see, and that's just as important.
I'll tell you what so many things not to freaking do.
I'm stoked for you.
I have so many failures. I have so many failures as a dad. I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? I'm like, oh shit, my head's spinning. Yeah. But I have some wins too. I'm
it's like, just like anything else,
when your kids come and cuddle with you, when your kids confide in you, when your kids, say you're cool, and like, oh, fucking heck. All right,
I'm cool.
I'm the cool dad. Hey.
Yeah. I love that.
Bridge, I love the fact that you and I have become such good friends. I love everything about you. I really do, and I mean what I say, and when I say that. You came into my life in a place where I'd figured my shit out. And I was like, cool, I know who I am now and I can accept people and they can see the true me, right? And from day one, you've just been this super cool cat. You've always been interested. You've always been engaging. You always reach out and have conversations and ask how people are doing, whether they even ask you or not. You're just one of these guys who cares and loves. Your wife is beautiful and I love her to bits, and she's become great friends with Andrea, and I really do consider you as super close friends. So I mean, I'm incredibly humbled and honored that you took time out to come on the podcast. I completely, to my core, know you are going to change the face of medicine. I really do, pal. From listening to you today, saying what you've seen, doing what you're doing, and having the full compassion that you have, that it's not just a patient in and out. This is a life that I need to help, not just a problem I need to fix, is remarkable. And I truly hope that maybe there's even other doctors out there going, how can I be better? How can I be more like Bridger? What would Bridger do? WWBD. There we go.
Now you put me on way too high of a pedestal.
No, it's true though, mate. And I seriously mean that. I really hope people listen and go, okay, and it doesn't matter whether you're a doctor, a freaking accountant, a hairdresser, or whatever. Why do we just fix the problem? Why can't we look at the cause?
Yeah.
And I just hope that parents out there listening, if kids are having a problem, don't fix it. Look at the cause.
Yeah.
Okay. So I really appreciate you, mate. your insight is always valuable, and I lean into it. And I just think you're a kick-ass dude, bro.
I appreciate that. You said a lot of nice things there. Yeah. I appreciate it.
Haley paid me a lot of money to say
I'm sure she did. I saw her slip last night at the dinner. She's like, be nice to him tomorrow.
Be nice to him. Don't break him.
Yeah, exactly. He's fragile.
Well, I love you, mate, and I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. This was fun.
Cheers, dude. Thank you for listening to the Bear Den podcast. Please click subscribe and get the updates for our new episodes. And if you feel the need to reach out, you can reach me on Instagram @TheBritBear.